Welcome, Breakthrough Crew. We're glad you're here. In our last episode, and hopefully you all listened, we talked about main character energy and how important it is that you stop being a supporting character in your life and that you become the main character. But as we talked about it and talked about it after, one of the things we realized is that we really don't want people to go crazy and overdo that, right? I want you to be the main character, but I don't want you to be the villain. So we need to make sure that we're setting some boundaries here, and we're talking about it in another way. My name is Julie Birch with Julie Birch Speaks, and I am super excited that you're here. One of the things I always say is that I'm fighting my war on self-abdication. I'm all about taking agency over self. You choose your voice, right? Your choice, your voice. And I hope that I can give you some skills and some thoughts that will help you do that as well.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to talk about this. I do think, there's two sides to every coin here. So how do you not become the villain, but still take charge? Very important topic. I'm Mallory Heron, wife, mom, CEO, speaker, author, podcaster, and I love dogs. And here we are. So I feel like, generally speaking, perception is reality. Even if you don't want to admit it, whatever you're doing is contributing to how others perceive you. And if they're perceiving you in a way that is maybe pretty selfish or self-centered or unaware, clueless, maybe you're the problem. Maybe a little bit.
Stop being an asshole.
A little bit. Don't be an asshole. This came up for me not too long ago. So I love my husband dearly. I'm going to pick on him a little bit. So teenage kids, right? So we're not cool. They don't want to hang out with us. But generally speaking, my kids actually do like to hang out with us more often than not, which is amazing, but we're happy about it. Well, my husband and my son particularly, like, they're hanging out in the garage all the time. Like, my son's working on four-wheelers and fixing them, and my husband's just kind of there and hanging out and talking to him because he doesn't have the same kind of mechanical capability, and that's fine. We all have different strengths, but he loves hanging out with my son and his friends. Well, this was a few weeks ago now, but at one point he came to me and was like, man, he'd been having a rough day, right? So he's kind of yelling here and there, not being the greatest, but he comes and he says, Nathan and his friends don't want to hang out with me, and I don't get it. And he's like pissed off. And in my mind, I'm thinking, have you tried not being an asshole? Right? Like, if you want him to want to spend time with you, maybe don't be an asshole. Maybe there's some consequences to your actions, and we're seeing them here. If him and his friends are like, nah, no thanks, we're good.
It's a hard lesson.
After you've been like that today, maybe, just saying.
What's the problem there, right? Sometimes we have to be more self-aware. Take accountability.
Yes. So that was when he crossed over from main character to dipping the toes in the water of being the villain. Now, everything worked out fine. They're cool. No big deal. But it's just, and I didn't say that to him directly, okay? This was an inside thought.
He's going to hear it now, though.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I love you. I'll make dinner. Like, well, it's fine. It's fine. We're fine. But yeah, like right. I immediately thought that, and I've realized there are definitely people I have that kind of thought about, maybe more than others.
That's kind of how this episode, this topic, I think, was born, is that we really were so excited about the idea of main character energy and not being a supporting player. But then since we recorded that episode and we've talked about it, one of the things that has really come up is that, but what about the people that are a problem? Sometimes people, they're the issue. And I think we have to be willing to acknowledge that, is that, are you the one, because you do have a hand in your circumstances. Right? And we all in our lives have known people that why do they do this to me? It's always about to me. Everything is about why do people do this to me? And I know that we've said this before, and I've said this many times in training classes, that people do things for their own reasons, but your circumstances are your responsibility. So you have to start looking for what's the common denominator. And that's really kind of the idea. If every single job that you've ever had, you got fired or you quit because it was toxic, it was a toxic environment, I've got news for you. If every job you've ever had, the environment was toxic, what is the one consistent thing in every one of those jobs? It's you. It's time to do the checkup from the neck up. You know what I'm talking about? Like at some point, you have to recognize you're the common denominator. If every relationship that you've ever been in, they were evil, they were toxic, they were crazy, they were a narcissist. At some point, again, what's the common denominator? And I think we have to start taking accountability and stop being a victim in our lives and start recognizing that we have the power to do something different.
Yeah, you might be the problem. And think about it this way. Do you enjoy dealing with people that misbehave like that make it all about themselves? They take main character too far and they're it's keeping a victim mentality. But the people that are out there just being assholes. So for example, I'm going to share a story. This is a family related story, but I'm not telling you who in my family. Okay. In case they're listening. I don't think so, but you never know. So, unfortunately there was a death in the family, and it was, one of the kids, and, it was this individual's only child, and it happened suddenly. No one expected this. So obviously your world is upside down. That's unimaginable pain. This thought of it is, I can't stand it. How awful to go through. Well, this person's family member decided that she wanted to jump in and take control as a form of helping out. So ended up flying, because it was states away, to this person that had just lost her child, flew out there and had asked that person to like book a hotel room for her. I think she's a little busy right now, but whatever. So flies out there and just starts complaining to the individual that just lost their child about how, like, my hotel's really not that great. Is there not another one that I could be put up in? Or maybe I'll just stay at your house, and just kind of railroading over the whole situation. And ended up, I was the one that was called to be like, hey, can you rein this in?
Knock it off.
Can you handle this? I can't. I have so much other stuff on my mind right now. I'm brokenhearted, but I can't also deal with this. So I was like, I got you. So I decided that I was going to be the problem that time in response to the original problem. And I called and I just reamed that person a new one. It was like, this is absolutely unacceptable. You're so focused on yourself. Why are you here? What's the reason you're here? You're not adding any value. You're not helping. You're making the situation way worse than it ever needed to be. And this kind of thing, have you seen those videos online where it's like parents that their kids have gone no contact with them? Mm-hmm. And in their videos, they're so like, I don't know why. This came out of nowhere. Like men that get divorced, I never saw it coming. No one ever said they were having a hard time. Yes, they did.
That's right.
Yes, they did.
Listening.
Exactly. And it the mentality it takes to stay in that mindset of I'm in the right, you're in the wrong. I'm an angel and I never did anything to deserve this. That's a pretty significant action. That's not a little thing. If your kid's going no contact with you, there's a reason why, and you're that reason.
Right. And I understand that, circumstances, things happen, but I do think that ultimately is that we become the victim, and there's reasons that things happen. And I think if we're honest with ourselves and we look back at the challenges or the things that have happened in our lives, I know I've made so many mistakes, and I've been through so many terrible, crazy things. And when I look back on it, you know why? Because I messed up, because I made a poor choice, because I was responsible for my decision and I made a poor decision. And I think that we have to get to a place where we become more self-aware that we are responsible for our circumstances, right? For the results that we get. Bad things happen to good people, absolutely true. But I think that when we allow circumstances to dictate everything, because whatever you've been through, somebody else has been through it too, yes. Right? You're not the only one on the planet that's been through that. Now, it may be the only time you've been through it, but it's that mindset of like, you see this a lot too, where people they say, well, this kid grew up in a bad home, they had a terrible parents, or their parents were addicted to drugs, or they grew up in foster homes, or they had this horrible upbringing, so that's why they turned to crime. And it's like, well, you know what? There are plenty of people who grew up in bad homes that became amazing, well-adjusted, contributing members of society. Yeah. So when we say, well, the reason that they're a criminal, we should be nice, we should be kind, we should be more forgiving because they had a really rough upbringing. Well, a lot of people with rough upbringings don't become criminals, and we don't advocate being criminals on this podcast.
Not here, no.
Not on this one.
Check out a crime-specific podcast for that.
That's right, and there are some, so check that out. But I do think that that's sometimes what happens is that we say, well, because of this, that's why I'm like that, and I think we have to really do more self-reflection and say, I'm responsible for what I do with that circumstance. Yes. So maybe that is bad. Maybe what happened to me was bad. Maybe I had something bad happen in my life, but what am I going to do with it? And not wallow in it, but rather what action am I going to take? How am I going to move forward in this? And people that just get stuck in how bad it is and how negative it is, that becomes a problem. The other thing, and I'm going to throw this out there and then we can kind of move forward, but the people that make everything about themselves, right? So we've kind of alluded to that, but very specifically, when somebody says, well, this happened, they're like, well, let me tell you what happened to me. And everything, it's amazing to me. It's actually, I almost feel like it's just an art form that some people are able to take whatever you said and turn it around and make it about you. And it is kind of that one-upper personality, like no matter what you've done, I've done it bigger, better, faster, whatever, and you turn it around on you. And we have to be self-aware enough that I'm all about main character energy, but don't be the villain. Show some compassion.
Yeah, time and place, and it's not all about you. Now, one thing I will note this, I've been guilty of this. When someone shares something with me that might be particularly hard or heavy, if I have had a similar experience, I might say, I relate to that. And it's not because I'm trying to make it about me. I want this person to know that they've been seen. I can empathize with them. But I have to keep in mind that doesn't mean I need to say anything about it other than, I imagine that's really hard, but I'm happy to listen, and being supportive. Because not everybody takes the way that that's how I like to be supported, is not feeling alone. So if I say something and someone else has also been through that, I find that helpful. Not everybody finds that helpful.
Right.
To some people, and it's been pointed out to me by my husband. He was sharing something and then I was like, oh yeah, so like when this thing happened, and he's like, it's not about you. And that's not what I ever intended, but that's the effect of what I was saying. So, I'm not perfect with it, but I'd like to think I'm pretty self-aware and I at least do something about it. It's when you aren't in control of your own life because you feel like things are happening to you and you're not willing to reflect and see, how am I contributing to this? And you can't see a clear line of, I took this action. Here's the consequence of that action.
That's right.
Then you're going to be stuck in a headspace where you're always miserable.
And nobody wants to be around somebody who's always miserable.
No, God, no.
I don't have that. And this is, like you said, kind of something you're not perfect at. This is something I struggle with, is that I have very, very low tolerance for complaining. Very low tolerance for people. I'm not generally I'm not the friend you want to go to when you want to just complain, when you want to just whine. I'm not that friend. I am not good at it because I will listen to people complain for about a minute and then I'm going to say, so what are you going to do about it? How are you going to handle it? So what are you going to do? Have you done that? Because I feel like people get stuck and I appreciate that, sometimes you need to vent and you want to be able to say it. I'm not your girl for that generally, but I do think that I find so often that people get stuck in the negative and they never seem to be able to find the positive. And nobody wants to be around that kind of energy.
Hell no. There is someone that I basically stopped taking places and hanging out with because I noticed every single time we went somewhere, there was always something that was being complained about. The parking was bad. I didn't like the drink selection. It was too hot. It was too cold. Just constantly. It ruins everybody else's time. Right. And I'm like, I'm not having a good time when I'm taking you these places. So I'm going to just stop taking you places. And I'm similar. I have a hard time with, look, there's childhood trauma and bad situations. That's very unfortunate. If you are a grown ass person, it's helpful to have insight into maybe why you're sensitive to things and why you do things the way you do. But it shouldn't just stop there. It should continue. Those are things you need to work through. There's stuff that you need to improve. I don't have a lot of tolerance for people that are big complainers that aren't willing to take some kind of action either. Right. And I kind of feel bad for that at times, but I'm going to tell you a story. So I had this great friend in high school. We were really close. After high school, as things happen, you kind of drift apart. But then in our 20s, we kind of reconnected, and she was going through a really rough time. Now she wasn't working. Her boyfriend was going to school and had 2 jobs. So he's like constantly working, constantly gone. Now she's at home, and as we're talking about things that are a struggle for her, so she's like, financially, we're about to be evicted and I don't know what to do. Well, maybe have you thought about getting a job? I'll be happy to look around with you and help you with your resume. No, I don't think that I'd have, this is before Uber. Okay. So I don't think I have reliable transportation. I have to borrow the car, And my boyfriend's been really having a hard time with me because he says I'm not doing enough at home. Well, what are you doing at home? Well, I don't really cook. I don't really clean. It's because I don't really know how to do those things. I can teach you. That's not a problem. So me, being also extremely broke, trying not to get evicted, I wanted to help. But I told her, I can't give you money. I don't have money to give you. So I told her, what we'll do, I'll clean out all of my stuff. I don't have a lot of nice things, but I've got clothes that I don't wear anymore. I've got belongings that I don't really use. I'll gather them together. We'll have a garage sale. You and me will have this garage sale, and you can keep the money. And I also, I offered this, and she says no. All right. She says, no, she doesn't want to do it. Okay. I set up a website for her because she, when thinking through how can you bring in an income, she liked to make art. And I was like, well, you could sell your art. She was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I made her a website. Didn't use it. Wanted to learn how to cook. I bought her groceries and went over to her house and started teaching her how to make the food. Didn't ever want to do it again. Kind of pulled back from me. Not too long after I found out, she thought I was a horrible, unsupportive friend because I tried to do these things instead of just giving her money so she wouldn't be evicted, instead of just buying pizza or whatever, instead of trying to teach her how to cook. Isn't that wild?
That is wild. Bless her heart.
And that's that mentality of things are happening to her. She made me the bad guy.
Right.
I mean, check me if I'm wrong. I don't think I was being the bad guy.
No, not at all. That's a classic victim mentality, that everything is, they can't do anything. Nothing's going to work for them. And let's just do a quick check-in with our listeners on this to be clear. We don't want to make this sound like we're complaining.
Right.
But we do want to share the idea that although we say main character energy, we also don't want you to be the villain. And your mindset is your choice.
Yes.
And here's the thing. So that's for you. Sometimes you got to do your own check. Your mindset is your choice, right? Your actions are your choice. How you choose to navigate circumstances is your choice. But the other part of that is, how do we then navigate other people in those situations? And we want to be compassionate and we want to help people. I'm always wanting to help people. And I think the story you just shared is a great example of that's amazing. You did a lot more than I would have done for sure. But I think how we navigate that and what we allow in our space, right? So and we've talked about this in other episodes, but the idea of who do you give access to? Because when you find that you're in those kinds of situations, you're with those kind of people, that you're either going to be drugged down by their negativity, or it's unlikely that they're going to be enamored by your positivity. If they're in that headspace, they're probably not going to, no matter all the positive things you say, you can do it, you're amazing, you can, just take action, small steps, we can say all that. But if they're not in the space for that, it's not going to work. We have to then make sure, though, that, okay, maybe they're not listening, but I can't be a party to that.
Yeah.
So I think we have to set boundaries in those kinds of situations.
Life is short. I do not want to spend my time being upset.
No.
Angry or sad or irritated. I don't want to be in that space. If something is going wrong, I look at what do I have control over and what silver linings are maybe here and try to see the bright side. Sometimes that's really hard.
Yeah.
But
right.
Your life is what you make with the circumstances that you have.
Right.
And sometimes those are circumstances you caused from your choices, but that doesn't mean you have to live with that.
That's
you
right.
can do something different.
Yeah, Kenny Rogers and the Gambler. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You got to play the cards you're dealt.
Yeah.
I mean that's the bottom line. Everybody has trauma. Everybody has bad things happen. It's amazing though how some people have bad things happen and then they end up doing amazing things. There's a guy who I think is amazing. He wrote a really great book. His name's Johnny Joey Jones, and he's on the news. They actually just made some news. Anyway, he's amazing, and he lost both of his legs at the above the knee in Iraq. He was an EOD, a bombs explosive ordnance person, and so the bomb went off. He did not get away, and he lost his legs. And he has said before, and I think this is amazing, that people will say to him, "How can you be so positive after losing your legs?" And his response is always, "How can you be so negative when you have yours?" It's like,
ooh, that's good.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, man, that does suck, but
I try to
bet somebody else has it worse. It's what you do with it.
Yeah, reframe things. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, I'm exhausted. And I think, what a joy it is to be exhausted from exactly what I wanted out of my life. Mm-hmm. Or when there's a lot of dishes at the sink and that's annoying. At least we had food and we could feed ourselves, we could feed our kids' friends, like we were all together.
Yeah.
Sure, there's like little annoyances, but don't harp on them. Like
right.
you have to move past them. When you ruminate and start making everything negative, not only do people not want to be around you, but you'll start noticing you have more bad consequences.
That's right. The more you focus on the negative, the more negative you get. And we're calling this, we've been calling this episode "Don't Be an Asshole," because I think that sometimes you are your worst enemy.
Yeah.
And Breakthrough with Mallory and Julie is about ownership. It's about, I say self-abdication, meaning we give away our power. We become a victim. And that's really, in essence, what that is that you become the victim of everything that happens. And things happen to everyone. So you choose how you're going to manage it. How are you going to respond to it? That's where your power lies. And I think that's kind of the idea of main character energy, is actually exactly that. It's taking control of your responses, right? How you handle things that happen to you in your life. So if you are that jerk, if you are the person that complains all the time, if you are the person who is the victim, who plays the victim, which if you are, you probably don't know it, but
maybe
you might want to
do.
double check. Right? You might want to think about it. But knock it off. Knock it off. Nobody wants to hear it. And you're not helping yourself.
Just stop.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if that was like that easy? I appreciate it's not. But I really do feel like what do I do? How am I supposed to knock it off?
Right? I think if you can catch yourself in a moment. So if we're talking about how do you overcome this, what can you do?
Right.
If you're in the moment and you're feeling heated, look, emotions only last for 90 seconds. And you control how you respond to those emotions. If you are in a moment where you want to complain, you want to pick on somebody, just stop yourself. Take a deep breath, think about it, and change your perspective. It's all perspective. Have you tried putting yourself in someone else's shoes? Do you know what challenges they're dealing with, what motives they have? Because it's not all about you.
Right.
What do you think, Julie?
I think that's absolutely true. I think that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And I think our mindset matters. So, and we have said this in a lot of, when we talk about the podcast, we've said a lot, the idea of lovingly kick you in the mindset. And this is probably one of those episodes where hopefully it is a little bit of tough love, and that lovingly kick you in the mindset. We're doing it with love, and make no mistake that I need to hear this message as much as anybody else. But it is challenging ourselves to stop being a victim, stop telling yourself all the things you can't do and all the reasons why it's hard, and start figuring out what you can do. Because there's always something you can do. So stop when you find yourself, and I really do, and that's kind of what you're saying. I think that how do you overcome this? I think that's exactly the idea, is when you catch yourself complaining, you catch yourself being negative, you catch yourself being a victim, stop yourself and say, no, let me refocus this. What's good about this? What can I do with this? Right? And I appreciate that sometimes it's big issues, sometimes it's really, really, really awful, horrible things, and it doesn't make it easy and it doesn't make it fast. But I do think that how we choose to navigate it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
So, mindset.
Yes, mindset matters. All right, it's time for, you guessed it, Fan Mail 5.
We've got a good question. And as we've said before, our questions generally are kind of what help us determine a topic. So this question obviously is going to be exactly related to what we're talking about.
Yes.
Because this person's not the only one.
Yeah, and keep them coming.
Please.
We like them.
We do.
We hope you do too. Okay, so this is from Heather in Missouri. I'm frustrated because it feels like no matter what I do, something always gets in the way. I know I can't control everything, but how am I supposed to build a better life when it feels like the odds are always against me?
Oh, I feel you, Heather. I feel you. I hope that you're listening. I really do hope you're listening, because what you're struggling with is something that a lot of people struggle with. I actually get this a lot when I'm doing keynotes or when I'm doing training sessions, that question comes up. It's like, how am I supposed to get ahead when all these things I feel like are just continuing to pull me down? And I really do believe it goes back to, there are going to be lots of things you can't do. It's easy to come up with all the things you can't do. You have to shift your mindset to, what are the things I can do? Sometimes it's small steps. Sometimes it's a mindset shift. Sometimes it's, it feels like that's not even going to do anything, but it's a step. And we have to shift our mindset, right? Maybe you hate your job and my boss sucks and it's horrible, but I can't quit because I don't want to be homeless. Okay, you can't quit. I appreciate that. I would never tell anyone to go in to your boss tomorrow and be like, that's it, I'm out of here. But if you really hate your job, what can you do? And maybe that means you brush up your resume. Maybe that means that you get online and start looking at what's out there. Maybe it means that you have a conversation with your boss about where you are and where you'd like to be. But it's action oriented. And I will promise you that even small actions help shift the mindset. So mindset matters. Loving you the mindset. It's what actions can you take? What can you do?
Yeah, because guess where you're going to get if you're just complaining instead of taking action too?
Nowhere.
Maybe even worse off than you are now. But you've taken the first step, like that self-awareness. That's important, and we appreciate. I'm not trying to make fun of you or anything like that. We appreciate the question. Remind yourself that you can do it, and those small steps, write them down, keep track of them. Over time, you're going to start seeing like, hey, things are changing, and it's because of me.
Right. I also just want to reiterate that I don't want, don't be an asshole. Look for ways that we can be more compassionate and we can be better listeners and we can be more objective in how we interact with that. And I think there's something to be said for that. As much as I say I get frustrated with people that complain a lot, I also understand that people have a lot to complain about sometimes. And sometimes what they need is just somebody to say, that really sucks and I'm sorry. And, let me take you out for a cup of coffee or a margarita or something. And maybe we can shift the mindset. But so I do think that part of it, when we say don't be an asshole, means don't behave like one on either side of it.
Yeah. And venting can be healthy. You just want to keep it productive.
There's a time limit for how long you can vent.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in another episode. Promises.
Yes.
I love it. Well, hopefully everybody feels like we wanted to just throw this out there because we did the last episode about really truly being that main character energy and stepping up and, you have to do it. And we wanted to reinforce that, but we also wanted to make sure that we were being reasonable, and that doesn't mean that it's all about you all the time. Sometimes it's about other people. So make sure we're not being a jerk at the process. So be the main character, but don't be the villain.
Yes.
That's the message.
Don't go over the tipping point. I think our listeners are not the villains.
No, absolutely.
I definitely think they're definitely mindful of it and empathetic, and
Right.
we appreciate that about you.
My guess is that everyone that's listening was thinking of someone specific when we were talking about that person.
Probs.
They had a specific person in their head when we were talking about it. So there's the illustration for everyone listening.
Yes, and create a little distance if you need to. But before you do that, like, share, subscribe, send links out about the podcast to other people.
Recommend
do
the
all
podcast to your problem person.
Yes.
Maybe what they needed was to hear this.
That might be fun. Be like, hey, have you heard this one?
This one you might want to listen to.
But we're happy to take them on. So we want the Breakthrough Crew to grow, and we hope that you are enjoying our podcast. Please tag us, talk to us in comments and social media.
Right.
We want to hear more from you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye, Breakthrough Crew.
Bye.
We'll see you on the next episode. This episode is sponsored by Heron HR, the experts in full-service payroll and HR built for growing businesses. Heron HR offers a white glove experience and specifically works with small and mid-sized businesses. Their easy-to-use HRIS system comes with all the bells and whistles you'd expect from a payroll provider, including applicant tracking, time, and labor management, electronic onboarding, performance management, and more. That's not all. They also provide benefits, administration, and brokering, recruiting, training, and HR services from the administrative to the strategic. Heron HR is there to take on as much or as little of your HR function as you want and need. If you're ready for a solution that scales with you, if you need full service payroll or you just want a real HR partner, they've got you covered. Give them a call today at 1-800-607-7787 or find them online at heronhr.com.
This episode is brought to you by Julie Birch Speaks. If you want another boring keynote, keep scrolling. But if you want an experience, meet Julie. Julie isn't just a speaker. She's the moment your audience didn't know they needed. With down-home charm, a sharp sense of humor, and zero tolerance for fluff, she delivers real-world techniques that make people laugh, think, and actually do something different when they leave. Through relatable stories, bold truth-telling, and solid business strategies, wrapped in brilliant comedic humor, Julie connects in a way that feels like a conversation, not a lecture. Your audience won't be just entertained. They'll be equipped, energized, and ready to level up. Solid business strategies, brilliant comedic humor. Find Julie online at juliebirch.com or give her a call at 214-679-2717.